Welcome to Determined to Succeed. I'm your host, Dawn Mullarney, also known as the Unique Connector. And I'm so excited to have Steph here with me today. So, Steph, I want to kick it off with when you hear redefining success, what comes to mind for you?
Well, that's a great question. And it's something that I've been working through since January 1st when I made my goals for the year. And 2023 to me was going to be success. And writing that on a piece of paper was just one small little piece of what actually success is. And, now we're in June, so we're already halfway through the year. And if I were to define success as XYZ in my bank account, XYZ with clients, I'd be missing out on like all the different facets of my life, of my health, my friendships, my children, my home, my yoga practice. There's so many different ways that success can be defined or even undefined. And I don't think we give ourselves enough credit for the gray area or the undefined success.
Ooh, well, I love that. And I feel like too, since I've known you since the virtual world of COVID and Dames, and there was some instant energy that we both had. And I feel like through this, we've just always kept in touch. And I feel like too, life is always evolving and things are always changing. And that's where too, redefining success. I feel like sometimes we have these goals where it's like, this is the cookie cutter and this is where we have to go. And this is going to be the journey and this is going to be the path. But I love how you just brought up, like, it's not about what's in my bank account. It's not about all these other things. It's about my health. It's about the energy that I bring to my family and how I support others. And so you've kind of had an interesting journey. And this is where, what comes to mind as I even talk about how we've met and how things have evolved for you even.
Yeah. Yeah. And my life it's always going to change. Like I've given up on, all right, this is it. Because as soon as I'm like, okay, this is it, then my world just flips. And I just feel like that's part of my journey here is just to be okay in those gray areas and just to show up to the table, show up like right now, how you and I are as a whole human.
Yeah.
I think everything around can be really great or terrible, right? But that's life. Life is imperfect. We're imperfect. It's supposed to be hard sometimes. Sometimes there's this false positivity that we have to, have a smile on our face and, have the right dress on, like just before I'm like, I had the cute outfit on, but I got hot. So like, and if I was hot, I wouldn't be able to like show up to this conversation. I'd be like, oh my gosh, and it's just like, it's all okay. Just to be real.
Yeah, to be real. And that's, I think too, I've always saw you as being very authentic. And that's where I think too, we've always kind of pushed each other or checked in on each other, or even think of when you hear the word fear, like you've kind of had some different things where you've leaped over the fears. And so, what is maybe something that has helped you keep pushing past all those fears over time?
Um, the first thing that comes to mind is books, education, reading, all of those things. When I can pick up a book and just open to a page and there's something in that page that just is like, oh, okay, they get it, So my story began a long time ago when I was a teen mom. I was 16. And so I didn't have friends that had kids. I didn't have, people that had kids were older than me. I didn't have any way to relate to people.
Okay.
In my situation. And then my kids, my one son has cerebral palsy as well. So I've always kind of lived on this out. I've never been in the circle. So for me, reading, picking up a book, and it's always just gotten me through. And taking what I read and writing about it and interpreting it, and kind of like what I said earlier about success, like writing it down is just one part of it. But when you really start analyzing it and thinking about it, that's what's always gotten me through. My friendships are important too, but
Yeah.
books are definitely, because you can pick up a book anywhere.
Yeah. Well, and that's where I feel like too, this world's just been different, where we all kind of are analyzing things a little bit differently. And I kind of relate to you too, where we've always kind of, I felt kind of in a different circle of everybody else outside of it, where it's always sometimes me always thinking of, well, what does everybody else think of me right now? I am that odd duck, or I'm just a little different than you. And sometimes I'm just a little bit more goal orientated or just like drive. And I feel like sometimes we almost hide that to fit in.
Yeah.
And so I guess, too, when you hear of like what others say or think, like what comes to mind for you even through that process?
Well, you know, I used to care so much about what people thought that I would, almost not be able to breathe.
Mm,
I going into the grocery store, with two babies and having people stare at you. And um, it's always just been, I've always tried to hide away and I've never been able to. So growing up super sensitive and super creative, and for whatever reason, even right now, it's like I can't just hide away. So what do? You just face it, and you just realize like you only have one life to live, and you
mm,
don't know when it's going to end. You don't know what's going to happen as soon as I open that door. So no one's going to come and take care of me. No one's going to hold my hand and say, oh, walk this way. Oh, do this thing. It's always going to be your own internal battle, I guess, or your own journey. And if you're just waiting for other people to validate you, you're missing out on on your dreams, on your desires, like all of the good stuff.
yeah. Oh, that's so true. And that's where I feel like so many of us are waiting for that checkbox almost to be checked of that validation or
Yeah.
to be seen or to be heard or to be
Hmm.
understood.
Yep.
And so I feel like that's always been kind of a journey for all of us. And some people can really relate to that. And some, they're just like, I'm going to just keep doing things and
Yeah.
I need those boxes checked. And so, even to the one life we live, similar to you, where we just kind of relate on that end. And so, how are you really focusing on life of really being present, but also to like living it? Sometimes there's so many other factors in life and world and business, and it's hard to juggle it all, I guess. So, how are you juggling it all to live life?
Um, well, that's a good question. I know when things get really hard, I rely on a really simple routine in the morning just to get out of bed. I'm not in that space right now, but it's like get up, have a drink of water, make your bed, wash your face.
Mm,
Like so. Even if I'm don't know where my life is going that day, I know those I can count on doing those three things. And usually by the time those three things happen, then I've got a plan for the day. Um, I think juggling wise, I don't juggle because I know that it's just a season and stuff will pass. And it's just being as present as I can with my kids, um, my friendships and my clients, and just again goes back to just like being a good human, and you know whatever happens, it's going to be okay. I do know that.
yeah. Well, I love
Yeah.
how you brought up seasons too, because I feel like sometimes we forget that it's almost seasons of life and things are going to evolve and things are going to change. And I feel like too, it's always these learning opportunities. And I feel like even through getting to know you and to know what you're passionate about. And I know too, like body image is one thing that you're passionate about, and
Yeah.
so it's a season. And so, why have you been so even focused on the season of helping others when it comes to body image?
um I think because we live in such a virtual world where we have to be seen
Mm-hmm.
to be heard.
Mm-hmm.
So and a lot of that has to do with our self-confidence, how much we want to share and how much we want to put ourselves out there. Um, there's a couple different ways to go about this question, but with photography, so many people, I take their picture. If I take their picture, first off, a lot of them are like, well, I want to lose 10 pounds first.
Mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm.
it goes back to that whole thing of like, oh, okay, but I guess in my business, because I've photographed so many families and then somebody passes, or I I can't say how passionate I am about how short life can be.
Mm-hmm.
So if we're letting that 10 pounds keep us from our whatever we want to do in life, or we think that people are judging us because of that 10 pounds or 20 pounds, or bad haircut, or bad relationships, or all the things that we hold on to, all that shame um, that we hold on to. If we're letting that hold us back, then what's the point, I guess. So
Yeah.
positive body image is positive, it's self-esteem, it's being able to hold your head up high and walk into a room that you don't know anybody, which I know you and I have, like networking and all that. You have to be able to be okay with yourself to
Yeah.
move forward. You can have the best idea in the world, but if nobody knows you, and nobody can see that, and you're afraid to speak, or you're afraid to be seen, then then again, like, life will pass you by.
Yeah. Life will definitely pass you by. And I feel like that's where we're always kind of waiting for that perfect moment or that pivotal
Yep.
moment where we're going to finally do this or we're going to take the action or get that confidence. Like we're like expecting something again, another checkbox to validate
Yeah.
when it's the next step. And, I just love too how you're just kind of bringing up these different things of life and the pivotal moments that you've had, and too how you're just trying to help others show up as their best selves and to live life. Cause I feel like it is going to go by so fast, and it already is. And yes, capturing moments. I feel like even during this COVID time, I've really taken a lot more photos. I've realized even more and more. And I think maybe too, just seeing you and other people and capturing the beauty and seeing the essence, and no matter where you are, is really important. And
Yeah.
so that's one thing I've always too loved watching you, of like when you'd go on those hikes and you'd capture that beautiful moment. And I think those are things where photos are to go back and to even just realize, wow, look how far I've come,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, and
And even on those hikes, like, it's for me to get into my car in the middle of winter when it's 0 degrees, drive out, like, my brain is fighting me every step of the way. Like, that's not a
Mhm.
fear, is just, it's always going to be there. You just can't let it, I can't let it guide my actions. And,
Ooh,
I think that's a huge lesson that I've learned, and just to kind of keep, maybe not boldly moving forward. I'm not a very bold person, but just like these baby steps of like, okay, like, just keep going and keep going, get
yeah.
it, get into the car, go to this hiking spot, get out of the car, walk up the hill, like, it's just taking this perceived big event and just breaking it down
Ooh, well, I
into little
love that
pieces.
because I
Maybe that's how I juggle stuff. Like, it's just, you just break it down. Like, if I get there, then
yeah, that's a step. And that's where I feel like so many of us always think of like, oh, to get there, I gotta, leap there now. But I
yep,
love too, very similar to you, is like we're laying out the groundwork. We're laying
yep.
out those little steps that's going to get you there. And I love to you talking about the cold winters of Wisconsin. It is freezing. And to take those
Yeah.
things where people are probably like, what? But if you lived here, you'd get it, of just, it is that fear of like, is this worth it too? Sometimes
Yeah, and you don't
Where
know.
you don't know. And sometimes
Mhm.
it's worth the energy. Sometimes maybe it's not, but you learn and you kind of pivot and you're going to go this way. And so, is there been something even too in your life where you've kind of really pivoted, where it's really helped maybe open your eyes of like changing things or changing even your perspective of what success can even be?
Yeah, I mean, a year ago, almost to the a little over a year ago, I was going to move to California
Yeah.
and start my life over. And, I was so determined that this was what I was going to do. And it didn't happen. I went out there, I looked at apartments a couple times, and it- like the pieces just didn't fit, and it wasn't my fear, it just wasn't fitting, right? So I had to
Mm,
pivot. I had to, confront that of me telling my friends and my family and my children, well, I'm going to move to California, and preparing my son who's 15 for us to move. And then it just didn't pan out. And what do you do next? It's like, oh, I
mm,
guess I'm just going to live in Baraboo forever, not that I will, but yeah, you just have to pivot and realize sometimes things don't happen, but it's for the better.
yeah.
Um, because I'm so much happier. Like, I'm so
Mm,
happy living here. And my whole life is different because I wanted to move, or, like the lessons I learned in that. And yeah, I mean, pivoting is just part of life, and making mistakes or whatever, we just keep moving forward.
yeah. Well, and you'd regret if you didn't go and at least try it out and see and go visit California and to do those little steps,
I did the
and I think,
steps. Yeah.
yeah, it's the steps and the groundwork, and now you come back with even a different perspective, and things have changed since you decided to not shift, and things have evolved. And I think that's
Hmm.
the part too, where it's like there's going to be steps, and maybe you're going to try and do this and it doesn't exactly work. And I liked how you said the puzzle piece doesn't fit, but that doesn't mean
Hmm.
it's a failure.
Right.
It just gave you a new perspective, gave you a new opportunity, something you didn't expect.
Yeah. Yeah. And the friendships and the relationships I've made since I've been back, I would have never had those if I had moved. I mean, who knows what would have happened, but yeah, it's really, yeah, it's just pivoting.
Mm. Well, I love that. And that's where I think even too, as you said earlier about books and body
Hmm.
image and being a young mother and all these little things,
Yeah.
pivotal moments in life,
Yeah.
you're taking it in, and then it's, it all kind of comes to fruition, I guess you could even say, where you didn't really expect all the work that you've been doing and how you're laying the groundwork out for this. And so, even for the listeners of, what is something that you're still dreaming to get to now that things have changed, or your perspectives, I guess, even?
Well, I have this weird dream. I want to travel again, and I want to do more landscape photography. But
Mm,
then as I'm taking pictures, I would love to have a gallery show at the same location. So spend 2 weeks at a location, take beautiful pictures, and then have a gallery
mm,
and sell, prints, and then go to another city and do the same thing. Um, but right, honestly, I'm just living right now, and I'm okay with that, living with all our thoughts, all my fears, all my thoughts, the shame, the all the things that we hold, and just being okay with that and still moving forward. Like right now, I'm okay with that. So, um, I don't know what the next part will be, but I know that's something that I want to happen. And generally, stuff does happen however it's supposed to. So,
yeah.
um,
Well, and I love too that it hasn't stopped you from dreaming big, and I think that's where
yeah,
too it's a season of life right now. Maybe that's not the season at the moment, but it could be the future season. And I think that's where hopefully listeners are getting inspired to realize to never give up. And I think that's where life's always going to throw curveballs. And,
yeah.
what's even something that you would tell listeners of why they shouldn't give up, I guess, even too.
Um, if you give up, then I'm not sure, because giving up isn't something that I do.
Yeah, I
Well,
love
I mean,
that.
I guess I do. I shouldn't say that. Like I've been divorced twice. I give up. Like but it's sometimes it's okay to give up. How about that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Some
Or to
and
cut the
sometimes
string. Yeah.
sometimes giving up is um actually is harder than keeping going, right? So if
Mm.
you know something's just not working, and I know that kind of goes against what everyone says, like just keep going, just keep going, just keep going. But sometimes when you're, again, the puzzle piece doesn't fit, whether it's a
Yeah.
business, a relationship, a friendship, everybody changes, like it's insane to me to think that especially, let's talk about women real quick, because when we're 30, what makes us happy isn't what makes us happy at 40. And what's
Mm.
I'm 42, so I'm not 50 yet, but I'm pretty sure what makes me happy at 40 isn't going to make me happy at 50.
True.
And I can't speak for men if they go through that or not. I just know for myself, and I know for a lot of people, um, a lot of women that I'm friends with, our lives change, and what makes us happy and joyful changes, and you have to just follow that happiness and joy.
Mm. Well, I love that too. It's going back to that seasons of things. Right now could
Yeah,
be something that really fills your cup up.
yeah,
And 10 years from now, it's okay if it doesn't fill your cup up. But also too, I love how you're deep down just still determined. You're always going ahead, and sometimes we do have to let things go, or friendships, or,
yeah.
relationships go, or
Mhm.
even business stuff.
Yep, jobs. Yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever. Yeah. You really do. You have to just and be okay with that, and be okay
Yeah.
to people aren't going to understand, you know? And
Yeah.
that's totally okay that they don't understand, because they're not you. And, you know,
Ooh. And that's
I'm
where I
trying to
feel
think
like
of
and that's what holds us back, sometimes because we're
yeah.
so worried about what is everybody else going to think. But
Oh, I
no matter
know.
what, they're
Yeah.
never going to understand. They're not going to know
Right.
what's going on in your brain and how you're feeling and what's bringing you joy.
Yeah, and that's like, and it's just insane to me. Not insane, because we all do it, but yeah, that we can put that much strength or weight on what other people think of us, that we won't even take the first, that first step. Or and that has to change. I do believe that does have to change. Like, we really have to honor our own independence
Mm.
as individuals. This isn't a man or woman thing. This is like you know, like, do your thing. I'm not going to judge you, because judgment is a huge thing too, I think. We wouldn't be so worried about judgment if we weren't being judged, right?
Yeah. And I would say that's like the top thing that sabotages us is our own internal judge. Because
Yeah.
for some reason we're thinking everybody else is going to be judging us, which deep down you're just judging yourself and you're holding yourself
Yeah.
back. Not everybody
Yeah.
else is thinking of us 24/7,
Right.
we're thinking of ourselves more than they're thinking of us. And so, push past that internal judge, but also even that external one that you're kind of telling your own story
Yeah.
of what people are thinking of you.
Yeah. And I think also, having that core group of friends, whoever it is, even if it is a book, or it is a podcast, or a person you can call and have coffee with, having somebody or something to support you is super
Mhm.
important. So when I was younger, I didn't really have support. That's why I turned to books. And
Ooh,
now
good.
I have, a really great group of friends. So, um, I've done both ways, but whatever you need for support, identify that, and get it. 'Cause it's hard to, because I have lived this like edgy on the edge life, where it's like,
Yeah.
well, I don't have the support. My husband doesn't support me. My friends don't support me. It's like, well, then figure out what does, and
Mhm.
or let's figure it out together. But there is whatever is in your mind that's telling you you can't do something, that's just the sign that means you need to do it. And
Yeah.
I love helping people figure that out. If it's a little annoying.
Yeah. Well, I was like, it's
Because
the uncomfortableness,
it
and people
is.
don't
Yeah, I
want to
shouldn't have
do
said
something
that, but
uncomfortable.
yeah, it is. It's like we can. We just need to educate ourselves and one another on how to move past these negative thoughts that we put on ourselves, that inner judge. Um, and every time it comes up, you just got to keep, those are just thoughts, and you move on. And yeah,
Mm,
we're
mm.
getting deep.
We are getting deep. Well, this is where I just love it too, because I always feel like when I have conversations with you, it goes deep. And I feel that that's where you always kind of make me feel that I'm normal, where
Yeah,
sometimes
you're normal.
I go all over where I'm like, and I think sometimes it's just finding those other people that can make you feel normal and to make you
Yeah.
understand that like, this is life. There's no cookie cutter out there. And I think so many of us are
No.
looking for that cookie cutter way of doing things, how it's supposed to be successful. Like, you need to do this sales thing or, have this certain look even too, to be liked, which is unfortunate. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true too. It is. And that kind of goes back to body image too, where it's like just wear the clothes that you feel confident and good in. And who cares what everybody else thinks. And your hair and everything. Just do what makes you feel good from the inside out, and do the things that make you happy and make you joyful, because that's
Mm,
going to give you confidence as well, right? Like um going for a walk, dance around in your kitchen, whatever it is, just make sure you're doing it on a daily basis, and or all of it, right?
yeah,
You
all
can.
of it. I know. And this
It's
is
like,
where I even think like this has been a weird season of me to go into the entrepreneurship world of just having the opportunity of like wearing what I want to wear or just realizing the things over the years of why I've had body image problems because it's what everybody else made me think or the judgment of myself, of even being younger and kind of having
yeah,
eating disorder problems to never being able to take compliments well because I always thought I wasn't good enough or pretty enough or, had
yeah,
the right body. And I feel like so many of us probably can relate to that. But it's like, what's
yeah,
ever going to be perfect? What's ever going to be the best? And I feel like right now has been the healthiest I've felt in the 30 plus years of being on this
yeah,
earth, where it's kind of weird, where it's like having your own space and being you. So,
yeah. I mean, and that's like a really good way to know you're on the right path, is your inner, how you do feel.
yeah. Yeah. Well,
And if it
I
doesn't feel
appreciate you.
good, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it doesn't. It doesn't feel good. And I think that's where too, it's like finding those people that help motivate you and to show up as your best self. And so that's where even too, I appreciate you and appreciate your friendship and getting to know you over the years because you just always too have given me a different perspective and too to slow down. I think that's the other thing of like slowing down and being present and taking in the different beautiful moments that life has been giving us even.
yeah, that's your photographic mind right there. I know you like to be behind the camera too, so
I
yeah,
do. I
that's
do.
that's the creative side of Dawn right there.
Well, I appreciate you for being on here today. And if the
I appreciate you
listeners
too.
wanted to get in touch with you or to get you to come take their photos, how can they get in touch with you?
So my website is stephshanks.com. I'm on LinkedIn, Facebook, and then my landscape is on Instagram, and that's Steph Takes Photos. So,
Mm.
um, I am a photographer. Um, as long as I'm behind the camera, I'm happy. So I've got a couple different outlets for that.
Yeah. Well, I would say you are a maverick of different things. So I
Yeah,
am excited to see how things even evolve for you over time. But deep
I
down, I want
know.
you to
Same for
keep
you.
shining bright. Yeah. Keep shining bright and making a difference and showing up as your best self. So thank you.
You too. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.